Welcome to the third video of Intro to Programming. Um, I think we've been going through Visual Studio by just launching Visual Studio. I think there's one little problem that students might fall into. That's trying to get their solution from the recent solutions and project uh, options. Now, the problem that can occur is, imagine if you've worked on your project or solution on a lab computer, and then someone else comes and work on his own, and then someone else, and you have several people working on the same computer but at different times. Now what happens is your project or your solution file is going to be way down in the list. It might even get disappear away from the recent project and solutions. So it's going to be hard for you to find the actual file. So in order for us to be able to get the actual file where we saved it, I'll show you the default folder that Visual Studio saves your projects and your solutions. So you go to your documents folder, just open your Windows Explorer, and you go to the documents folder. From there you look for Visual Studio. Now depending on the version you have, mine is 2013, so I'm looking into Visual Studio 2013 folder. I'll double click on that and look for the projects folder, and inside the projects folder you will see all the solutions that you've been working on. Now, I think I remember the solution we're working on is Smart Calc with a K, and this is it. I'll just double click that. It opens this, and you see a smartcalc.sln and another smartcalc.v12.suo. Now, the one you want to double click is the .sln file. That's the solution file. If you double click on that, Visual Studio will load and your solution will automatically open. So I hope that should help some students from retrieving their saved solutions. So I think where we stopped in the previous class is we have gone as far as linking these buttons. That's the number buttons, and what's left is to link these operational buttons to do what they're supposed to do. For the CE button, I think this is the easiest to handle among the operational buttons, because all it's going to do is it should just reset whatever is being displayed. So if we have a list of characters and numbers in there, if the user clicks on CE, everything should just wipe off. So to handle that, first we'll double click on the CE button to create the event handler. After it creates the event handler for me, inside there we'll just say text box 1 dot text is equal to empty string. This is the empty string. So the empty string is just a quote, a double quote, and a double quote. That's two double quotes with no spaces between them. What this does is it just takes this empty string and replaces the content of text box 1.text with that. So if you have a list of numbers in there, if the user just clicks on the CE, it just gets wiped off. So let's just test that to see what I mean. I click on the play button, and so the user clicks on a few numbers and then clicks on CE, and you see immediately everything just gets wiped off. So we've handled the CE button, as simple as that. Now the next thing we'll handle is I just noticed that we don't have an equal sign. That's a little weird, because it's probably the most important button we have in a smart calculator. So let's just quickly go and add that. I'll open the toolbox, drag a button and drop it there, and I think I'll put my equal button here and perhaps make it the widest button and make it a bit tall, and I'll just leave it there, and I'll change that to that's the text property. I'll change that to equal, and that's our equal button. The first thing we should probably handle, let's handle the addition first. Now I'll double click on the addition button. It creates the handler for me. Now before we start handling the addition, I think it is worth noting that we need to add a few variables to our form in order to help us in the calculations. So what we're going to need, the variables we're going to need is, we're going to need an operand 1, an operand 2, and an operation variable. Now to do that, we'll just go into the class. So you're going to go into public partial class form1 extends form, and after this curly brace open, you just click in there and press enter. That gives you a space where you can add a variable of the form of your form class. Now we're going to write a private variable, and we'll call it okay, the data type should be, let's make it a float. Remember in the class I said a float means a floating point number, and we'll call it operand 1. We'll also need another private float, operand 2. So these are the operands for our calculations, and then we'll need a private string. Now notice the string I'm using. There are two different types of strings. The first one is the one with a small letter, which is a native data type, and the one I'm using is the one with the capital S, which is a class, is an inbuilt class. So it's the one with the capital S we're using. Private string, and we'll call this operation. Now this variable operation, the operation variable we'll use for storing the type of operation we want to perform. That's either a plus, a minus, a division, or multiplication. So that's that with the variables, and we'll go into the plus button click event handler, and we'll write the code for it. So whenever the user clicks on the plus button, we need to do a few things. First, we want to take whatever is in the text box and add it to the operand 1, and then we're also going to change the operation variable to a plus. So we'll go ahead and write the code for that. So we'll write operand 1 is equal to text box 1 dot text. Now notice you cannot take the value of text box 1 dot text and just put it inside operand 1. The reason is because operand 1 is a floating point variable and text box 1 dot text is a string. So in order to convert a string to a floating point number, we have a method that does that for us, and which is the float dot parse method. Now when you write the float dot parse, you put the text box 1 dot text as the argument. Sorry about that. I think I just ran out of time on the screen recorder. Anyway, float.parse is the method that that changes a string to a floating point number. So we'll just take the contents of textbox1.text and change it to a floating point number and store it inside operand 1. Now this is what happens when a person clicks on the plus button. Then I also mentioned that we need to set the operation to be equal to a plus. We'll just write operation is equal to the plus string. Now this is a literal string. We'll just set it as a literal plus string. Now I think this is all we need for handling the plus symbol, but it's also worth noting here that this float.parse takes the contents of textbox1.text and converts it to a number. Remember, it's changing the contents of a string to a number. So it means that if a person writes something like ECD and clicks on plus, we're going to have a little problem, if you get what I mean, because that cannot be a number. ECD is just string of characters. They're not numbers, so it cannot convert it to a number. I think in that case, it will just convert it to 0. So operand 1 will just be converted to a 0. So anyway, just thought I should point that out. So we're using this with the hope that the user is only going to enter numbers in the calculator. Next, we'll go ahead and handle the minus button. That's just, I think, the same with the others. For the negative, for the minus button, we'll just do the same. We'll set operand 1 to be equal to float.parse textbox1.text. But the operation should be set to minus. So this is what will happen when the user clicks on the minus button. Next, we'll handle the multiplication. We'll just copy this, Control C, Control V. We'll change this to times. We'll click on this, double click on the division button, Control V, and change that to divide. So these are we've successfully handled our plus, our minus, our times, and our divide. I think one more thing we haven't handled. Notice that if the user clicks the plus button, operand 1 gets initiated and operation is set, but notice that we did not clear the text box. So let's just go ahead and do that. So it means we need to clear the text box by setting textbox1.text to be empty. So if the user clicks on the plus button, it should also set the text box to be empty. That's, it should wipe off the contents of the text box. Is equal to empty. We'll just copy that, Control C, Control V for all the operations, Control V, and we've successfully handled the addition, division, multiplication, and subtraction button clicks. Next, what we want to do is we want to handle finally the equal button. So we'll double click on the equal button, and I can see a little problem. we forgot to change the name of our equal button. So please, let's go ahead and do that. First of all, what we should do is we should, okay, I can see this can run into several problems. So to just make things easy, go ahead and delete that equal button. There's a reason for that. It's because inside our program.cs, is it program.cs? No, that's not it. I think it's inside, well, inside one of the code. You know, whenever you add a button or you add an event handler, the code gets added for you by Visual Studio. The code gets, exactly, that's inside this form 1 code. You see, the code gets added. This equal button, oh, okay, I deleted it. It was added inside here, and there are a few other, as you can see, button 1 has a few lines of code that handle it for setting it up, which all gets added by Visual Studio for us. So whenever we want to make changes to a button, I'll suggest for now just delete the button entirely and then add a brand new one, and then make sure you make all your changes on the button before you finally start making changes in the events. So I'll just enlarge that and change this to the equal symbol, and let's not forget to change the name of that button. We don't want it to be button 10, we want it to be equal button. So I'll just call that equal button and click that and double click on the equal button, and now you see we get an equal button click event handler. We'll just go ahead and remove this button 10 click method that was created initially. We'll set what happens when the user clicks on the equal button. So what does happen? We want the operand 2 to be set as the current content of text box 1. So operand 2 will be equal to float.parse text box 1.text. That's the first thing we want to do. And then next, we want to check what kind of operation did the user click prior to clicking on the equal button. So we do that by checking the operation variable. And there's a very nice control for doing that in C#, which is the switch code. If you use switch, what you're saying is you want to use the contents of whatever you provide inside here to test and see what do you do when the value of what's inside there is, you know, case whatever. Let's just go ahead and write the code. I think it's going to be very difficult to explain it without this showing the code itself. So switch, we're going to switch operation, and you press enter and then open a curly brace. Visual Studio will close the curly brace automatically for you. So I just like to press enter and, you know, give it a very nice layout. And inside the switch curly brace, so inside this block, I'm going to use a case and then plus and then a colon. Now what happens in this switch is you're taking operation, the value of operation, and you're checking if the value of operation is plus, then it should run this set of code. So the set of code we want, sorry about that again. I ran out of time in the screen recorder. I'll try to make things a bit faster now so we don't run into the same problem. So what we were saying is we take the value of operation and it checks if the value of operation is plus, it will run the lines of code you provide here in the case plus block. So here what we want to do is we're going to do addition of operand 1 and operand 2 and then display the result on text box 1. So we're going to do, first of all, float answer is equal to operand 1 plus operand 2. Let's see. Okay, we can make this better by making this answer a bit global. That's not global in the form per se, but so we'll just remove that answer from there. Okay, let's leave answer there and instead declare answer here. So you're going to declare answer before you enter the switch, before you start the switch operation. So you just write float answer and a semicolon. That means you're declaring a new variable. This is a local variable, answer. You're declaring it as a floating point number. But we're declaring it before the switch block because we want to be able to use it outside the switch block and also inside the switch block. So I hope that's clear. So inside this plus case, we're going to do answer is equal to operand 1 plus operand 2, and then we're going to write the break keyword. What this break does is it's just going to say it's going to force only this to be executed whenever operation value is a plus. Now for the subtraction, we'll say case minus and a colon, and answer is equal to operand 1 minus operand 2, and then we're going to break and case. I like to keep everything in well tabbed. That's that. Case times answer is equal to operand 1. Now the symbol for multiplication is star. Operand 1 star operand 2, and we're also going to break. So what this break is doing is that it's just making sure that whenever answer is set to operand 1 times operand 2 here, it just breaks, it exits the switch. It will not allow you to do operand 1 answer equals operand 1 plus operand 2 and then at the same time do answer equals operand 1 minus operand 2. So it's more like an if-else construct. That's a bit I know that sounds a bit weird because we haven't done the if-else construct, so forget about that. I forgot this is an intro to programming course. So just take it that this break is just making sure that it does not, it only handles plus if the operation is plus, and it won't do the minus and times. And it will also make sure that it only does subtraction if operation is minus. Just hold that for now. So case divide colon, answer is equal to operand 1 divide, the symbol for division is / operand 2, and then we'll put our break, and then we'll do a final case for default. Sorry, that's just default. You don't need to write the case. So default, the default is for if none of them, if operation is not plus and it's not minus and it's not times and it's not divide. So we're not going to do anything. We'll just break for the default, and that's it. Finally, outside the switch. Now this is why we made answer, we declared answer outside this switch block, so that we can use answer here also. So we're going to say text box1 dot text is equal to answer. Now also notice you cannot just take the value of answer and plug it into text box1 dot text. The reason is because answer is a floating point number and text box1 dot text is a string. So we have to convert this to string first. Now we've already seen how to convert a string to a floating point number by using float.parse and passing the string inside. For floating point numbers, if you want to convert anything to a string, you just write the name of the variable, that's answer, dot, and you write to string. That's the method. Because it's a method, you have to open a bracket and also close the bracket, meaning that is a method. So text box1 dot text is equal to answer dot to string. Seems weird. We're still getting a kind of error. Use of unassigned local variable answer. Okay, why is that? Answer was declared here and it's saying answer is unassigned. Why is that? Is it because of my spelling? No, it's not the spelling. I'm not sure. Let's test run and see. Does it work? There were build errors. Oh, okay. So we have answer. It's not finding answer as a local variable. Let's see if we save. Does this go away? No, it doesn't. Okay, fine. We'll just make answer a global variable. Let's remove that from there and go to the top where we declared these variables and just declare a private float answer. So I'm not sure why that was giving me that error, but I think that should handle that. Save that. So remember, declare answer as a private variable inside your class entirely, and then we should stop getting this error. Now let's test run it and see. Okay, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Okay, that looks good. CE to reset. 9 times 2 is equal to 18. Okay, this looks good. Looks like our calculator is running. 60 minus 5 is equal to 55. That's good. And finally 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. So we finally got our smart calc running. One more thing I would like to talk about in this same video is that notice if the user enlarges and decreases the size of the smart calc, then the buttons do not change. The size of the buttons do not change. Now this is a bit advanced. If we're going to handle that and take care of that, it's going to be a bit advanced. So I'm not going to do it in this class. I think I'll do it as an extra class. So if you find this interesting and would like to go ahead, so whoops. Sorry about that. We just ran out of time while I was talking about the extra class. So anyway, if we're going to handle the enlarging and resizing of these buttons, um, we will have to do that in the next class, and it's going to be a bit advanced, not the simple things we're doing here, because we're going to be changing properties like the anchor of the buttons, the size of the buttons, the location of the buttons, and other things. So for now, it's good that we have our calculator running, and I think we'll stop here for this video.